Michael, how are you doing?
Good, Joseph. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. I'm doing very well. Thanks for asking, but more importantly, thanks for making time today for us for the group.
Oh, my pleasure.
Appreciate it. Where are you? You're in Canada, right?
In Vancouver, in Canada, yeah.
What's it like there this time of year?
Raining.
Oh,
Yeah, well, it's kind of been going up and down. It's springtime, getting let's see now, got to put it in centigrade. Yeah, anywhere between 6 and 9 degrees centigrade right at the moment. But we kind of having this intermittent rain, but occasionally very sunny. It's a bit cold, but otherwise nice. It's okay.
yeah. I just realized yesterday was the first day of spring,
Yeah,
technically speaking.
yeah, that's right. I
But
mean,
then I wake.
I used to live in California, which is really quite different.
Oh, a little bit of a change, right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
So I want to dive in right away because
sure.
I know obviously one your time is valuable, but I just know there's a lot inside that head that I want to try to extract out for the group. Um,
Well, if you can get inside there, you're very welcome to do so, because I've attempted many times, and it's a task.
I just think you have such a unique philosophy, if that's the right word or approach, and I kind of, which is obviously as I put in the notes when we started or when we set out the invite is around natural selling. But I kind of wanted to bounce back. I mean, how did you go about developing, or what caused you to develop this approach? Because again, it is fundamentally different. It's a if I could use the right word, a paradigm shift once you kind of deep dive into it. But how did you come about saying something's got to change? If that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah, interesting question. Like that goes right back to when. Um, may I ask you a question first? I'm not diverting. I just was curious,
Of
so
course.
I can sort of pick up on it. When you say unique philosophy, how do you see it as being unique?
I would just say different from what is historically taught, or let's just say not even taught, but what is the perception of selling
Mm,
and or salespeople, right? Um,
yeah,
and I think I put this in the notes. One of the things I noticed with either I probably either read it or maybe yeah, I'm sure I read it, but I came up with it. Your passion and your mission around bringing integrity back. I, I don't say back, but to the profession as a whole.
mm, yeah.
Um,
Okay, thanks.
so
I
yeah,
just want to get a brief glimpse of what's inside your head.
good luck.
Well, yeah, we'll see. Yeah, well, we have to go back quite a way, back to 1980, which is when I first started selling. Seems a long time ago, but it feels like yesterday, to tell you the truth. Um, and I fell into it. I'd gone through a number of jobs and just hated being an employee, as it were. And I just answered an ad, a three-line ad in the Los Angeles Times, uh, about solar energy. So I went for an interview, and it kind of seemed pretty good idea. It seemed about the only thing I could do was possibly sell, because I've tried everything else. And so I started selling domestic hot water solar systems, for a company called Solar King, that had the hottest solar collector. First 3 months I struggled. I mean, I was $5,000 in debt. That's in 1980. At first I struggled because I really wasn't sure what to do, but I started studying and learning sort of what is still the standard sales process. And that first year, I made a lot of money. I made $85,000 in commissions, just pure commissions. You
Wow.
translate that. That's like probably about $450,000 today. And it was good. I loved the camaraderie of the people I was working with. I was an independent contractor. Um, I After 3 months, I ended up selling apartment building hot water systems. So my sales were anywhere between 7.5 and $95,000. So I'd never seen commission checks like that before. I mean, it was like nirvana, and the money was great. Though interesting, the money flowed through my fingers because I wasn't really used to the money. I went out and bought a BMW immediately. It was like $25,000, which was good. But
Huh.
that's another mental thing, if you it was adjusting to the fact not only just making money, but keeping it. Anyway, that's another story. But as I was going through that, even though I loved the money, I thought the money was great. I just hated the whole process. It just seemed so adversarial, in as far as this, it was me against them or us against them, and all the training was basically on that based on that. It was all about getting the sale. Even those who were well intentioned, um, people like Neil Rackham, for example. You've got I've forgotten his name now. Just a moment. He did consultative selling. It was all focused on getting the sale, always getting the sale. And I felt this was really adversarial. The whole idea of presenting what you think are the features. And if you do that, you're guessing. And now you have to kind of, and if you're guessing, they don't like it. Potential buyers don't like it. Closing all the time, using closing techniques and tactics. That's putting pressure on someone, trying to put them in a corner. You know, did I like being put in a corner? No. Did most people? No, they don't like that. Um, you know, when someone comes up with a question or a concern, looking at it as an objection to be overcome. This is all so kind of like this. And I always felt at that time, I always thought there had to be a better way. So I started thinking about it, and I now know better is not to call it a better way, but just to call it another way, because through my own kind of learnings, as it were, it's not an either or world; it's an as well world. And the sooner we all get to grip with that, the better we'll live in harmony with each other. But anyway, so I just started seeking, and Larry Wilson, that's the person I was trying to point out. So as soon as you start focusing on something, it's like buying a new car. You want a certain type of model and color. All of a sudden, you see them driving around the streets, right? That's because your attention is now there. And if it's combined with your intention, it's very powerful. And I went through the Larry Wilson program, and it was great. What it really fundamentally gave me was an understanding that it's better to ask questions than it is to present. It was like a big aha, great. This absolutely makes logical sense. So I started using it. And it amazed me just how quickly people were more receptive to me. They were already fairly receptive, probably because a little bit about my accent or something like this. But they were more receptive to me. And excuse me. What I still found out is that what I didn't sort of fully realize at the time, but what I found out later was that my mindset was still on getting the sale. I was asking questions to get the sale. And you find books about that, how to ask questions to get the sale, whether they tell you directly or indirectly. So I went through a number of years, and it was in the mid '90s. I was training a bunch of salespeople in the UK. I'd helped someone in the UK to create an investment. He had sort of a unique cellular phone, mobile phone technology. And the investor said, look, I'm prepared to put this money in. It was a lot of money too. If you're prepared to come over to the UK and train these people and create a sales team and all that sort of stuff. So I like training. Not that I was particularly good at it at the time, but I was doing all right. So I went over there and I did that. I set up a telemarketing, and we got the telemarketing team to set up appointments up and down the UK. And then I drive one-on-one with the salespeople, and we go and meet with all these potential buyers. And I do the first meeting, they do the second, I do the third, and so on. And I'd help them out where necessary. But here's the funny thing: is every time we came back, obviously I sort of I help more people buy our product, our service. They say, "How come you got all the easy ones?" And I couldn't answer that one. I was struggling with it. And I came up with answers. And so I went to bed regularly with this, thinking, and I suddenly woke up at night. So the reason I'm getting easy ones is very clearly because I'm not trying to get the sale. That was it. That was the big aha. It's like I literally was talking with owners of companies and managers to find out if what they were doing could be enhanced and be better off for them if they used our service. That's all it was, and that's where the conversation was. And they would pick up on this, and so consequently, instead of them, if you like, having some kind of protective barrier, it all disappeared. We both leaned in, and we had a conversation. And if it was right, they bought. If it wasn't, they didn't buy. It wasn't a huge amount of money, so it wasn't that difficult. Um, so I got to thinking about that and started retraining some of the people. And I got thinking, I'd rather be training than doing anything else. And I was talking to my sister about it, who was a business coach. She said, well, why don't you go back to North America and become a trainer? So that's what I did. 1997, I set it up. And the unique aspect about natural selling is about detachment, is about actually understanding how to let go, not as a trick, not trying to let it go logically, how to actually embed it into your being and detaching from the sale. The moment you do that, the energy changes. The energy with oneself, the energy that that is emanating from other people. And I've recently been talking about reframing. In as far as if you want to help someone reframe their thinking, a potential buyer reframe thinking, then think about reframing yourself first. And it's mindset first, skill set second. So kind of a long way around it, but I hope that answers your question.
No, it's spot on. When you, and I think you talked about it at the end there, where you have to have something. Then, if you're going to detach, it's not just a tactic, right?
Yeah.
It's internal. It's a belief, and I think that's a big that's a bigger part. A little bit more practice, a little bit more involved than just, again, oh, I'm just going to detach, or I'm just going to act like I don't care maybe about the result or selling it. But it's more intentional, I guess, is the word I'm looking for.
Well, it's not about not caring. It's about caring, and it's about caring about making sure that the other person is really getting what they want and they need. And many times, potential buyers don't know what they want or they need. They know kind of peripherally, but they know that they have a problem. I mean, the problem is the difference between what they want and what they need or desire. Um, but many times it's something that is not always easily expressed by them. And I feel it's our job to help them uncover that and also uncover the potential consequences of going in the wrong direction, not doing something, not sort of taking action and so on and so forth, which is what happens with a lot of people. And the idea is to find out sort of basically three things about them. Their logical reasons, in other words, what they want. That's their outer logical reason. I want this, okay? Their inner logical reason, which is unique to them. So they might want a new car, but what kind of car they want is unique to them. It's still logical, but it's an inner logical reason. And then there's also the depth, if you like, the subjective emotional rationale, which is totally unique to them. Because you can ask them a series of questions. I can do it within 5 to 7 questions and have their complete buying blueprint, their outer logical, inner logical, and emotional subjective reason as to why they want something. And they can give you exactly, let's say I spoke to 2 people and they gave me exactly the same answers all the way through these questions. Their deeper emotional reasons is different. Is that they are different. And they might not tell you, they might not be able to tell you, but it is unique to them. But even if you just get to that level, you get to that point, you have demonstrated your ability. I won't say superiority because that sounds like the wrong word, but you've developed a really to them an understanding that you understand them, and that's really the key. And then the detachment goes even further because a lot of times people will buy into you. They'll buy your experience, or demonstrated experience. They'll trust you, And I've had this happen, and they will actually alter their criteria to work with you. And the real area of detachment is, can you let go of that if you actually know that your product or service is actually not going to fit precisely what they want, and you know where they can get it? That's when you're really testing your inner depths of detachment. That is not about getting the sale. It's about helping them got what they want, need, or desire at the kind of the fundamental sort of emotional level. And once you do that, selling becomes so easy. It's relaxing. It's comfortable. It's fun. You know, there's no stress, no pressure. If you got quotas, you'll meet them, you know, by the 20th of the month, as opposed to the end of the month. You know, then you got
Yeah.
to deal with the sales manager who's going to say to you, "Well, you're doing so well, we're going to increase your quota." It's like, why? Why would you want to do that? You know?
Right. One of the things you talk about in the book is the kind of the starting point. I would assume it's around agenda.
Yeah,
That's a very prominent or piece um, in a lot of sales processes. Selling in the home is, obviously after just some informal or formal introductions, you ultimately are going to quote unquote set an agenda. Which, let's talk about that for a second, because I think the approach you talk about with this is pretty eye opening, and once people realize it, kind of agree around whose agenda is it,
mm,
you know? And you
mm,
talk about this in the book, and I think it's easier said than done, right? um, but tailoring the agenda to where it's about the customer or for the customer versus what we're trying to accomplish. I see this all the time, and I don't. I'm just curious how you help coach somebody through that. Work with a rep to get off of that
yeah.
concept.
Well, it's a matter of differentiating between objective or agenda, in other words, personal objective and personal agenda, and purpose. So let's use the word agenda if you want, which is your personal agenda, and objective. So, you know, I like to ask this question in workshops and whenever I'm doing group training, and I just ask people to answer this question, but answer it in the first thing that comes to mind. Don't think about it, just answer it. And the question always is, what's the purpose of a business, any business in the world? And people have got savvy to this now because I've been doing it for a long time. And but generally they used to say make money or something that was to do with them, you know. And the reason I asked them not to think about it is because if they started thinking about it, their conscious mind would start kicking in, saying, "I wonder why he's asking this question. I wonder what the right answer is. I want, you know," and it's all intellectual stuff, as opposed to it coming from the soul, coming from sort of the inner side, which is the answer that I wanted to hear, and they needed to hear. But here's the difference: I didn't care what they said. They could have all said, you know, to help people. That would have been fine, because then I would have sort of gone in sort of in another direction with the whole training. And 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 that's the giveaway, insofar as you ask yourself is, why am I doing this? And if it's about money, which is fine, I mean, the objective is good, but it's really about purpose. And the purpose of a business is to help other people solve their problems, or to help get what they want, need, or desire. And if you can embed that into your inner self and into the cellular side of your body, that becomes who you are, as opposed to what you want and what you want to get. And the irony is, the paradox here is that if you can concentrate on your purpose and become a person of purpose, as opposed to, and that's your intention. So your intention is your purpose, as opposed to your intention is to make money or make more sales or do whatever like that. The paradox is you make more money. So it's a balance, and you have to achieve, you have to get what you want. Is, you know, you have to achieve your agenda, otherwise you're not having fun in life, you know. So, but how do you go about it? And the switch is focusing on your purpose, agenda, purpose, and your agenda will be met. And that's really what it's all about. Now, if you're a certain personality type, such as a driver or maybe even a controller, you don't care necessarily. I mean, because you'll do whatever it takes. So if it's about making money, you'll go out and make money. That's why most CEOs and politicians, you know, are sort of driver types. They kind of have a kind of a socio-pathological sort of aspect to them. Their whole aspect is get the job done. They don't care too much about how it's done or who it affects. It's just about getting the job done. So there's a small percentage of people this doesn't really adhere to, as it were.
Is that, do you think, two questions pop to mind. One, is that probably the first step you would say if you're introducing natural selling to the principles of natural selling to somebody, whether they're a brand new salesperson or a seasoned veteran? Is that the first step of is identifying that purpose and getting that intention correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's what I
it's
mean.
getting that intention, and also, first two principles of natural selling, the five principles there. First two principles is about detachment and purpose, detaching from the sale, letting go of the sale, and understanding what that means, and purpose, and get those two things sort of wrapped away, and you're on your way. Can it happen overnight? Yeah, anything can happen overnight. Can it take time? Yes, it can take time. Depends on sort of how much you want to immerse yourself into that whole concept and turn it into sort of practical reality. For a new person, it's probably easier than it is for someone who's been selling for some time, because someone who's been selling for some time has to unlearn a lot of stuff. Because there's a lot of stuff I've learned. I mean, my favorite one at the moment is the word objections. If you never introduce that word, let me ask you this: if I say the word objections to you, the first thing that pops in your mind, does that appear like a positive, or handling objections, or dissolving objections, or whatever? Does it sound like a positive or negative word to you?
It's a negative. It's combative.
Yeah. Well, that's it. What about closing?
Oh, same.
So you
Same.
see all the sales training, even those people who have knowingly or unknowingly sort of copied my material, copied my approach, and talk about detachment and so on and so forth, don't fundamentally understand that those words create a negative feeling. And if you're being, and unfortunately, I have to do it to a certain extent, because you've got to meet someone where they are, and then take them where they want to go. And you have to take them, it's like a bicycle wheel. The back wheel is about sort of your objectives, your skill set. The front wheel is actually the steering, and you have to steer it in different directions, depending on who you're talking with. But you have to meet them where they are. But the whole point is to start eliminating all those words from your vocabulary and then from your mind, because whenever they pop up, it creates a negative intention, a negative feeling, and that negative feeling transfers itself when you're talking with people, and they feel it, and it will also determine what words you use and how you use them. So, because everything starts with a thought. And if you have that little thought in your mind that you're now about to overcome an objection or dissolve an objection, then you are now working on the basis of what's in it for me, as opposed to what's in it for them. Does that make sense?
It does. I remember you told me this, one of the first phone calls you and I ever had a few years back, was the words you say give you away. And I think that's kind of
Yeah.
what you're hinting at
Yeah.
around that.
It is. It's exactly. You can't escape it. You can't.
Yeah.
It's literally, you cannot escape it, because somewhere along the line, even though you try logically to, somewhere along the line, you're going to slip up, and your real intention is going to slip through. And it's a progression. When you first start doing natural selling, that is likely to happen, but it'll happen less and less and less, and your results will start being immediately better even though you might slip up a little bit, and you get to a point where you just don't anymore because it's really about them and not about you. But what you're doing is trying to help them grapple with what it is they're looking for and why they're looking for, especially with high ticket sales, for example.
Yeah. One of the things you told me a long time ago as well that or maybe it was in the book, I can't remember, but you were talking about, and you just mentioned it earlier, and that's what I wanted to talk about. You were talking about certain personalities and how really it's a small, I don't know if the percentage is still the same, but I think you had mentioned to me one, but it's like 17% of the world has that high D, high I personality
Yeah.
that is, perceived as being the requirement, if you will, to do what we do inside the home. And it's because that's the people who wrote the methodology, right? Am I correct in saying that? Like, it was written by high D, high I. That does. So I guess what I'm getting at is, doesn't mean that the other, 73% of the world can't do what we do. Just have to do it a
Well,
different way.
well, yeah, that's what made natural selling so attractive, because what I was doing was basically accepting the 15 to 17% high eyes with where they were, and concentrating on the other sort of 80, 85%. Um, when I first started doing this, the network marketing community found me, or one particular company did, and then just mushroomed from there because it was resonating with the people who want to become network marketers. And I really respect that. I think it's a great thing to get involved in, because you essentially are becoming your own boss, and you can do it very inexpensively. You don't have complete freedom, because so many network marketing companies cause all these restrictions and stuff like this, which you're not really your own boss, but you are to a great extent. You're an independent contractor. But what they were being taught were was being taught how to approach people with even the most ridiculously manipulative salesperson wouldn't be using. And he used to just upset the heck out of me. And I'd look at this, and I fell upon this accidentally, because my assistant at the time was a network marketer, and she asked me if I'd train a group of people. So we'd set up a 2-day workshop, 2 day or 1 day, can't remember. Anyway, and there's about 20 people. And I couldn't understand all the stuff they were asking me, because I was giving them this information. They were coming back. I was going, this is crazy. I don't understand it. And they suddenly twigged is that what they were being told was creating resistance that they didn't want. So I said to my assistant, look, let's bring them back again, and I'll do it for free. And I'm going to rework it all, because I need to find out more about this, and also help them to get around what they're being told. And it worked. They suddenly twigged. They got it. Once I understood where they were coming from, met them where they were, I was able to demonstrate something entirely different, and they loved it. And then it just mushroomed from there. And what it was fundamentally about was it. I used to ask them a question and say, "Would you like most people to be interested in you and everything you represent, including your business?" And they go, "Yeah, yeah, of course." I said, "Then don't talk about you and everything you represent. Talk about them. Allow them to talk about them. And they'll tell you everything that you need to know as to whether to talk about your business, whether to talk about the business side, the product side, or both. They will tell you. How would you like that to happen? How would you like them to tell you that and give you permission for you to tell them what you're doing?" And their hands will go up again. It's okay. This is the process. This is how you go about it. And immediately, what happened there is that they embraced it. I decided a couple of years later to write a book called "How to Sell Network Marketing Without Fear, Anxiety, or Losing Your Friends." This is about year 2000, and it just took off. I mean, it became a bestseller. It was amazing, and it turned everything around for me, which was really good. Or progressed everything much faster. Um, but what I discovered is that there was absolutely no point in talking to the top level distributors, or most of them, or to the companies. because they already fixated in their idea of basically the way that you explained this to people was to go and talk to them about, I found a wonderful product, wonderful service, wonderful nutritional supplement, wonderful thing. It's done wonders for me. You should have a look at it, blah, blah, blah. That's telling. That's presenting. And people don't like being told, and they don't like being presented to, which is the way the standard sales process is about telling a person what we think they should know. We're guessing if we do that. And if you're guessing, you're going to put up resistant barriers from the other person you're talking with.
And then so you take it to you just brought that up. You take it to the third stage or third point is more conversation, dialogue.
Yeah, there's a big, my book, my ebook, I talk about this, and as I do in my network marketing book.
By the way, I have that book.
Okay.
It is the worst title. I'm just kidding. I love the book. There's a bunch of people in this group that have that book now.
Yeah.
And we'll tell you every page is dog-eared because I think it starts. I'm looking at the statue behind you. To me, I think you're like sales Buddha. And it starts that first couple of chapters around the spiritual side of this, if that's the right word. But
yeah, it's good.
love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So the book's phenomenal. I just joke about the title because people see me reading it and they're like, are you in network marketing? I'm like, no, it's not a bad thing though either, but no, I'm not. That's not it. Reason why I bring that up is people that go looking for that book and think, oh, I'm not network marketing is not, it doesn't make a difference what you sell or what you're doing. That book is a must read. I truly believe that. I'm so glad. That's how I found you 2-3 years ago. Was like, all right, I had to order some used copy from somebody in some foreign country, but I got it. And now others have it. So sorry to cut you off there, but I can't recommend it enough.
It amazes me how many people have translated, because I thought it was, probably primarily network marketing, but and it's not. In fact, I remember a few years ago, someone coming up to me with the book and opening it and doing just like you said, highlighting it, dog-eared it, notes by the side and all that sort of stuff. And I said, hope you don't mind that I defamed, desecrated your book. And I said, no, you should look at mine, because I've done the same thing. What I've done recently, I don't know what book you're referring to earlier, but what I've done recently is put an online book. It's called Why to Sell the Way People Buy.
Yep, I have that.
With the online course, which is a follow-up step, which is how to sell the way people buy. But the why to sell people buy is a more succinct version of the network marketing book. The network marketing book was more about me getting stuff off my chest. I'll be honest about that. But the reality is that people seem to resonate with what I was saying, getting off my chest, So
totally.
Maybe that was a good thing. Maybe I've seen a lot of emotion inside of that,
I think I said to you, maybe it was before the call, or we've talked about this before. I think so many people want to feel and do or carry, run their, follow this approach, but for whatever reason don't adopt it. But I think they're, deep down, they truly do wish, that way when you come home at the end of the night and you're not drained because you feel like you've been going to battle for, in our industry, pretty common 3 appointments a day. And it's like, holy cow. And you're like, what the heck? It shouldn't be this hard, if you will. But it's because we trigger this resistance with how we sell.
There's an irony in that, insofar as that, especially initially, you're still likely to feel drained, but it's a satisfactory draining because you know that you've done a good job. You know that people have bought for the right reasons. You didn't have to use any pressure. You didn't have to use any techniques or tactics or anything like that. And then it becomes relaxing in a way, but you can't make it too relaxing because you become complacent. All of a sudden, it'll kick you in the backside, which was saying, hey, you're basically going back to your old techniques again because you're becoming lazy. because you have to be alert. You have to be thinking. Well, I kind of find you're thinking but not thinking. If you learn the process and you start practicing, you come to a stage of unconscious competence. You know the four levels as such.
Yes.
I mean, and the top two levels. There's unconscious competence, then conscious competence. Unconscious competence being that you know you're good, but you don't know why you're good. And then conscious competence is that you know you're good and you know why you're good. And what I've worked out is that there is a higher level of unconscious competence where you just unconsciously become part of this process. But you also have to be aware that you're helping guide this person in the direction that they want to go. You're also, ironically, helping this person guide in the direction that you want them to go, because where they want to go is usually is why they're in trouble, why they have a problem. Where you want them to go is where you're helping them get out of that, and then all of a sudden they go, aha, I get that now. It's a mental thing, I get that now. I understand why I need to go in this direction, not that direction, or why I'm tripping myself up by going that direction. But a lot of it, though, as I said earlier, is about for salespeople is to unlearn. I was talking with I took on a coach recently. I felt so I needed to up some stuff in my mind, and so there's a revelation for you. Never told that one before. But anyway, um, and I was talking to her about what you were just talking about, and she said that most salespeople, because I'm talking about the inner game a lot more. And so most salespeople are looking for skill set, tactics, strategies, and stuff like this. That's what they kind of go for because it seems like the easy route, but it isn't necessarily the easy route. So it's a matter of then combining the two, because I'm always coming from places mindset first, skill set second. In fact, to be more precise, it's natural selling mindset first, skill set second. And so it's a matter of we were talking about how to blend the two. So future posts that I haven't put out many for the last week or two, we'll have more of a combination of that. What's the mindset and how do you practically convert that into something that's practical, something that's useful.
I think I've said it in the group. It's the active ingredient, right? Like if it's the I'm baking bread. I need yeast if I want it to rise, right? So if my mindset's not in the right place, it won't it won't allow me to do the things, the skill, to execute on the talents that I have or the skill set that I have if my mindset's not in the right place.
Yeah, and the irony is that for me, the skill set is in the mindset.
Well, there's that too. I think it's still yes, yeah. That's good.
I mean, that's where it all fundamentally is working out what my intention is. If my intention is to get the sale, well, that's the way it goes. I mean, that then is perfectly attuned to people who are just looking at upping their skill set or manipulative set or using stuff to manipulate. I'll share something with you. When I first started selling, one of the books I got was Tom. Excuse me a second. Tom Hopkins. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another book called The Closers, but nothing to do with him. And I hated it. I mean, I did it to begin with because I thought this is what you had to do. And then after a year, I thought, no, I can't do this anymore. And I've got two of his books behind me here as a reminder. And about 3 years ago, I needed to take an odd moment out. And I popped his book off the shelf and sat down and opened it and started reading it. And there was two really great questions in there. And I looked at it going, whoa, these are great questions. This is perfect. This is good. And all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a minute. You don't care for this guy. You don't care for his philosophy, where he comes from, what he's teaching or what he was teaching, et cetera, et cetera. And then it suddenly, and then I started pondering on that, flipped a couple more pages and came upon 3 principles. And one of those principles was about asking questions. So that kind of lit me up a little bit. But here's the thing: it's about asking questions. Only ask the questions that you know the answers to. And I'm thinking, this is like a lawyer's handbook or something right
Right.
here, right?
Right.
So, so I thought, okay, this is crazy. Then I got to think about it more and thought, well, wait a second. The questions themselves are really good, but it depends on the context. If you change the context, and for me personally, the questions shone. But if you put them in a context to manipulate someone to buy, for me, that was adversarial and doesn't do anyone any good. And it doesn't do the sales profession any good, because sales profession sort of doesn't have a great kind of feeling for most people anyway. And I felt that, and that's sort of the difference. And so it's a matter of, looking for stuff, but fitting it into a philosophy that really works for you. So if you're the skill set, I got to get the sale at any cost, whatever it is, and you're the high I personality, what I do might or might not work for you. But what I have found is that many high I people use my stuff and manipulate the heck out of it.
What do you think is it like a scarcity mindset? Is it a fear? I mean, what do you think
Yeah,
it is?
it. I think it's an inadvertent fear-based. The standard selling approach and thinking is fear-based, and I'm not sure it was inadvertently set up that way, but it's basically designed to fail. It's inadvertently designed to fail, because if you're setting yourself up with the idea that you're going to get objections, and here's how to dissolve them, here's how to get over them, here's how to get around them, and if you look at most of the training, it's still using the overcoming objections, um, as opposed to making them part of the conversation. Here's the big difference: you you will get resistance at times. But you can't start off thinking, oh, I've got to deal with possible resistance, or I hope this person's not going to resist me, or I hope this person's going to be a friend, because that immediately sets up an energy that you're not going to get out of. And that energy would be picked up the other person. So you do accept the fact that you are probably going to get some kind of resistance, maybe at the front, middle, end, whatever, it doesn't matter. And you prepare for it. There's an Aikido saying, martial arts saying, you prepare for everything, expect nothing. So you do prepare for it. And in fact, I look forward to someone coming up with a new form of resistance whenever I talk with anyone, because it kind of, I go, whoa, wait a second, this is an interesting one. And usually I'll bring it into conversation, know how to converse around it, or with it, however you want to look at it. But then I'll think about it afterwards, think, okay, that's another one. How do I respond to that in a non-adversarial way? How do I make it part of the conversation? And there are some standard ones there. But if you start off with thinking that, with the word objections, you're in a sense, you're doomed. You're going to get resistance. No.
Self-fulfilling prophecy after a while.
Yeah, it is. You know, See, I don't treat it as resistance. If someone has a comment, a question, or concern, or they don't like something, I don't treat it as something to be overcome. I'm curious as to where the heck they're coming from.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. I am curious. It's like even when we go through the whole natural selling process, there are 5 different stages. Connecting stage, discovering stage being the most important. Here's a big clue for those who want to take this further: is the person who's bought not in the commitment stage or the presenting stage. They bought it in the discovering stage. That's where they've triggered off in their mind thinking, I like this person, I trust this person, what he or she is saying makes sense. I'm going to buy from this person. And then you get to a stage where you transition, which is the 3rd stage, into presenting. Presenting is merely a gathering of all the stuff that was agreed upon to confirm and reaffirm that it's kind of all together. It's like putting in a box and tying a nice bow over the top of it, right? And if there's any disagreement at that stage, this is time to bring it up, because you might have misunderstood something, you might have missed something, your potential buyer might have brought something else up. So you bring it back into dialogue again and represent. The committing stage is just a natural step in moving forward. There's no stuttering about do you want to buy it? You know, it's really about, okay, next stage is this, right? Which is, let's get this thing moving. And at that stage, sometimes someone will come up with some kind of resistance. Now, here's the clue. Here's the big clue. If you have the conventional mindset and you've gone through a process with someone, and you've reached this stage, conventional sales mindset, if you it's very hard for you to talk about that resistant area without sounding adversarial. But if you come from a natural selling place and it's part of the conversation, you can go in depth with it. Even the people say, you know, I need to think about it. Because the need to think about it, you know in yourself, and they know that your solution is the correct one. It's priced right. It's going to do the job. It's going to make them feel good or whatever they want to feel. But there's resistance. That resistance is coming from somewhere within themselves based on the past. And now you have to turn into almost like a little bit of a therapist to delve into the past to find out what was happening in the past. And there's a way of doing that so that they can break through. They just break through their own barrier and say, you know, this is crazy. Yes, you're right. I want to buy it.
Can you hint at an idea behind that last part about going, getting them to break through, if you don't mind? Is there a way? I don't know if there's an example. I know it's kind of on the spot a little bit, but I love where you were going with the common one. I want to think about it, is getting them to reflect back on something internally with them.
Yeah. Good tip. First of all, I'm going to pick up on a word there. You use the word getting them. That's a no word for me in most cases. I'm only bringing it up. I'm only bringing it up because I know I'm on friendly territory here, right?
Yeah, 100%. You're right.
Yeah. You know, substitute the word for something like helping them find out if there's a barrier in the past that might have. I would actually, if you don't mind, I'm not going to answer that one because that's on my online course.
Oh yeah, no problem. That's fine.
And my online course, I mean, is really inexpensive for what you get out of it. I mean, I'll share with you right now. If you get my book, my ebook, Why to Sell the Way People Buy, you can have the course for $1,497. You know, and I almost guarantee that you'll double your sales within the first 30 days. I've had people do it much earlier than that, but you know, it depends on sort of how much you grasp it and so on. So there is a way, though. But fundamentally, the way is that you have to come from this place of intention and trust, so that you can talk about kind of this deeper issue of why is there this possible resistance that's coming up. You know, that's where it is. I mean, the standard one is this. It's like, you know, I need to think about it. Is to sort of appreciate where they're coming from, but then you have to ask in a certain way, depending on where they're coming from, as to why they want to think about it. Because the reason they want to think about it will be different for many people. And then you take it in a direction, in a conversational direction, to discover what that is. But you know, people coming up with those questions is fun because you learn a heck of a lot.
Yeah, you and I did that exercise together one time, and it sure beats role playing some canned things, rebuttals. I can say that for sure. I guess the other question to it, or the other part to it, is when you talk about where your intention is, meaning, are you hoping and hoping is not the right word, but are you at this stage of the, say, appointment or wherever, it's your motivations are driven from to help them find this solution, to move or guide them and facilitate the solution, versus it being for your benefit of a commission. That's kind of the starting point, correct?
Yeah, really and truly. You know, I do one-on-one coaching, I don't do a lot of it because I don't hire other people. I mean, I do it because I enjoy doing it, and it's very, very limited number of people. Um, and I started on the basis of actually not knowing whether I want to take a person on or not. And it's not about arrogance. It's just about whether I'm going to. Whether, it's a number of things. One of them is, am I going to enjoy this? Um, you know. Um, Secondly, um, are they really committed? Because a big question that comes up with regards to qualifying someone is their level of commitment, and are they committed? Because if not committed, this is going to take a long time, and I'm going to be struggling with them not doing certain exercises each week and stuff like this. Exercises which are set up specifically for them, and it comes, it is not comfortable. On the subject of qualifying, for example, which I think is really important. A lot of people think in terms about qualifying your potential buyer. To me, that's only part of it. What you're helping people to do is qualify you, and it's the way you think, and the way you approach, and the way you talk, and the way you address people will verify that. But there's an probably even more important part, is that you're helping them qualify themselves.
That's a good point. I never looked at. Every time you and I talk, I feel like I should be laying on a couch. And are you seeing more and more people come to you? I mean, are you seeing the future of sales like this aha moment finally, with more and more people going, there's got to be again, what you did 40 plus years ago with your own self, there's got to be a better way. Are you seeing that? Are you I mean, I think the customer's demanding it more than we've ever seen, which is great.
Yeah.
But are you seeing it on your end? Like people are, or you still have a lot of people that are just suspect to it, or can't do it this way, or won't buy in? I mean, what do you?
I tell you the truth, I don't know. I'm not that deeply into the sales space. In the last few months, I've got more. How can I put it? I've tapped more into people like yourself, um, and encouraged to see generally sort of where people are coming from, even though I don't necessarily agree with some of the terminology and the attitude. I mean, there's this still, for example, I give you a thing here, closers. That word is being used all the time. And if I bring that up, you might say, not necessarily you, but generally people might say, well, yeah, but I don't use that word necessarily when I'm in front of potential buyers, or as they still call them, prospects. Which is another word that's kind of like scratching nails across the blackboard to me. Is that energy is still there, because it's no different than saying to a potential buyer, is I'm here to close you, or as someone say, or a setter, an appointment setter saying, yeah, okay, Mr. Jones, that looks good. I think we can certainly help you here. I'll get one of our closers to give you a call. I mean, essentially that's the energy, and like, get rid of the word closing, because unless, use it to a certain extent, bring you to closure or something like that, but get rid of the whole general idea of the word closing. So to answer your question, I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think people are probably sort of psychologically are looking for a better way, another way, an edge as such. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. I feel very many ways I'm in my own kind of unique little bubble here, and my own little sandbox. And anyone's welcome to join if they want to join me.
See what happened here. Hold on one second. I lost my
Yeah,
Camera again.
we got a body with a little head here.
Yeah. Not sure what I did.
I've got to say, you're looking good, Joseph. And now we've lost you. There you are. You're on mute.
Sorry about that. We had to change up some cameras here.
That's okay.
One of the things I think about this often is how a salesperson perceives the industry, or the profession. Do they look at it like a serious profession, something they could see themselves doing for a lifetime, or is it just a hustle, if you will, or because again, it's just, oh, I've heard there's good money, and therefore they don't really truly buy in to even care to change their intention about serving and helping versus quote unquote just closing.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about that. What most
This
people
is
do.
what keeps me up at night, by the way.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
Why would that be?
Because I love I love the profession so much, and kind of like you said, with the integrity side of it, but just getting, in our industry, and the people I speak with, and often as I talk about selling beyond the quality of the lead, and meaning most of the performance is tied to, in most of the businesses I speak with and talk with, you can tell their performance is tied around expected, metrics. Basically, they're playing a numbers game.
Mm-hmm.
And for really no other purpose than that's just the number that is required, because that's what the business needs to do to meet the budget to keep the doors open. There's no real actual reason to not be able to perform at a higher level than those expectations. So it then becomes, is it worth the time and the effort to learn something like natural selling, and the results, like you say, could be double in some cases. When you look at the metrics in our industry as a whole, you're, good grief, you're like, wow, you're failing 70% of the time. So it's not even it's like there's tons of opportunity. But I guess what I'm getting at is, it's almost like it's good enough so no one says anything, or it works so no one says, you know what, there may be a better way. Not only a better way for the end result, performance metrics, but actually a better way to then enjoy the business, enjoy the profession.
Yeah. That's the same with a lot of industries, is that, this is the way we've done it. It works. Get on with it. That's what I was told when I first started questioning the whole process many years ago, was this is the way we do it. This is the way we've done it, until you come up with something better, keep your mouth shut. And so I'm not a person who likes to keep my mouth shut, because I'm quite contradictory. I'm not conventional in that sense. I'm always questioning. I even question my own stuff.
Yeah.
I even question my own beliefs. The whole idea of believing in your beliefs is ridiculous to me. I believe my beliefs because you have to believe in something, but you come along with a better sort of idea, which makes more logical and emotional sense to me, I'll immediately change. That's what this is all about, is moving forward and so on. So to respond to what you're saying, is that you use the word expectations. And if those expectations are driven externally by a company which says, you have to meet this quota, you have to meet this goal, now you're back into what's in it for me mental attitude. And so now you're in the potential of pressuring the sale, pressuring the person, and you're likely to lose more sales than you gain. And the key again is to let that go and just not listen to corporate, and just do what you feel is right. And if you feel good with your sales and you turn down sales because you know that it's not good, then so be it. There are a lot of sales jobs around, and you can find companies that will give you the freedom. And the other thing is that by doing something like we're talking about, what you do is you set up a different culture, and the culture is one of internal help. It's about reading from the same page of the book. And by the way, if you've got someone who doesn't want to read from the same page, let them do it. It's not a either or world. It's an as well world. So let them do what they want to do, as long as they're not hurting people or hurting the company. And it does a remarkable change in the culture. I was fortunate when I first started selling, in that the culture of the company, it was a couple of people there who were people who wanted to help. They saw in me an enthusiasm there, and I'd come back with being blooded, after a couple of meetings, and I'd go, I'd say to Jerry, he was just amazing. I said, Jerry, don't give me those leads anymore. That I don't want technical leads anymore. I don't want any technician leads. And he go, why not? And I'd give him a reason, and he'd go, oh, he said, that was a simple. This is how you reply. And I go, oh, right, give me some technical leads.
Yeah.
I want to go and use this. And as soon as I took that on, I never got the responses that I was getting before, because I had a different mental attitude.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm off key. I'm off kind of off subject a little bit here, but anyway.
No, but that's a big problem. Is something I'm really passionate about, and then people, I think, look at me like I have 10 heads sometimes, and they get it, I think, logically, but they still don't do it. Is around, like, if you become so attached to the result, you will do whatever it takes, usually meaning cut corners, to get that result.
Yeah.
It's not rewarding. That's why one of the things you said in your book, that I was just talking to a peer about this the other day, and I'm going to botch it, but this is in your first book. This is in the network book. And you talked about, I think it was your own life, where you were like, I was making a lot of money, but I didn't seem to retain it. And you tied it back to probably because of your mentality and mindset about how you went about earning it, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to be said there. In our industry, you see it a lot. Guys and gals making great money, but they're not truly, quote unquote, wealthy. And you wonder where it goes, or they can't seem to hold on to it. And I think there's something there. I think there really is something there about how they feel they earned it doesn't really help them when it comes to retaining it or investing it in the right places and activities.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. Yeah. But that's what keeps me up at night. If I could get people to buy into the importance of focusing on the right activities versus being so attached to just the result. And they would probably, in your case, what you said too, everyone I've seen that's able to do it blows the results or the expectations that they have or their company has for them out of the water.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about doubling the sales. You can 10 times them, 5 times them, and it's quite easily done, as long as you're thinking about it and approaching it with a different mentality. And the mentality is, it's always got to be, I'm here to help. I'm not here to persuade. I'm not here to make you do something you don't want to do. I'm here to help. And that has to be set up right from the beginning with somebody. Even if it's a setter. If a setter is setting an appointment, talk a lot about that with some salespeople that I do one-on-one coaching with, is that make sure your setter is reading from exactly the same page or the same book that you are, because they need to hand that baton over to you in a form that allows you to continue the conversation, not restart it. And one of the big problems with setters is that, and I asked the question, what's the job of a setter? And the reply is, make an appointment. I said, no, the job is not to make the appointment. The job is to be able to qualify the person enough so that the appointment is worthwhile for the salesperson, to help this person through the process. That's really what it's all about. So they have to understand a little bit about the psychology behind qualifying someone to make sure that they're on board, and they can ask the first couple of questions that the salesperson can ask to set it up, and it provides that continuity. And they get hold of the salesperson afterwards and say, "This is what we said. This is what they want. This is kind of why they're looking for it." And the salesperson picks it up and says, "I understand you've spoken to Joseph, and he's told me that you're looking for this, and a rough idea is that this is the reason you want it. Is that correct?" And they'll tell you. But immediately what happens to that person, the potential buyer, is, "Oh, this is cool. They seem to understand where I'm coming from." And that's really what you want. And that's half the game.
That's a great point. I think you told me too one time about, starting on, has anything changed since the last time we spoke, or the last time you spoke with our, since you made the appointment with young lady in my office, or what young man in my office? Yeah. To pick up the baton. I like that. Well, Michael, I know we went longer than I probably asked you for, so I do apologize for that. Best way through the group, obviously everybody knows that you're in the group, which I appreciate you contributing to. And then otherwise people can go to naturalselling.com.
Yeah, just go there, and just follow the breadcrumbs. If you want to get the ebook, it's there's a little green thing that says discover how, and there's a little bit of a sales page there. It's $7. It probably should be $700. I don't know.
I love it.
But yeah, and it gives us three main reasons why people resist, and how to stop that happening, with 5 principles, and gives the psychology behind it. The ebook was updated recently to give the sort of the real inner game, the inner workings of exactly what is going on in the mind. And it's not just the mind, believe it or not. There are three centers, 3 brain centers. One is the mind, one is the heart, and the other is the gut. And if those are all kind of humming along together, you are in. I mean, you're just working it. So it's not just up here. It's also understanding sort of these other 3 centers, as it were. But yeah, so just go to naturalselling.com. That easy to remember. But I do appreciate you this call.
It's always I can't thank you enough. I know the group will appreciate it, and hopefully obviously everybody's busy during their day, so I know a lot of people watch it on our YouTube channel after the fact, or the replay in the group. So definitely recommend connecting with Michael when you can through the group initially is easy enough. And Michael, I appreciate it and wish you all the best.
I wish you all the best too, and happy sailing.
Same. Have a good weekend.
Thank you very much. It's going to be a wet one, but who cares? That's what umbrellas were made for.
That's it. Okay,
all right,
we'll see everybody soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.